What happens when a powerful formula is stolen and a brilliant mind is murdered? Let's uncover the secrets of black coffee. The grand mansion of Sir Claude Amory looms on the outskirts of the sleepy town, its towering windows casting long shadows in the pale light of early morning. The air is heavy, thick with an unspoken tension, as though the very walls of the house are holding their breath. Inside, the mansion is eerily silent, save for the soft ticking of an ancient grandfather clock that seems to mock the stillness. In Sir Claude's private study, the only light comes from the flickering flame of a solitary candle, casting long, quivering shadows across the room. The walls, lined with shelves of leather-bound books, are filled with the scent of polished wood and dust. The elderly man, Sir Claude, sits hunched over his desk, his gnarled hands trembling slightly as he examines a piece of paper with a complex formula, a breakthrough that could change the course of history. His mind races, both with excitement and dread. This formula, vital for national security, holds immense power, but it is a power that could easily slip through his fingers. His gaze shifts from the paper to the room around him, his mind buzzing with one chilling thought. Someone in this very house has betrayed him. A traitor, a thief the formula is missing. He narrows his eyes, feeling a growing unease. The servants, the guests, all of them have secrets, and they all stand to gain something from the disappearance of this dangerous formula. He makes a decision, his voice shaking but firm as he calls for his guests to gather. "Return it," he warns, his tone cold, cutting through the silence like a blade. "Return the formula before I expose it to the world, all of you, before it is too late." But there is no answer. The guests linger in the shadows of the house, as though too afraid to move. Sir Claude's sharp eyes scan their faces, reading the hidden emotions that flicker behind their eyes. Guilt, fear, desperation. He knows that one among them is guilty, and that the night will reveal all. As the clock strikes midnight, Sir Claude pours himself a cup of coffee. His hands steady despite the storm brewing inside him. The dark liquid swirls as he lifts the cup to his lips, unaware that it holds the poison that will seal his fate. The bitterness of the brew fills his mouth as he takes a slow sip, his eyes never leaving the formula. The last thing he feels is the warmth of the coffee and then an unbearable coldness. Suddenly his body goes rigid. The room tilts, and the world blurs into darkness. Sir Claude crumples forward, his face falling onto the desk, his fingers twitching slightly before going still. The formula, once held so tightly in his grasp, slips from his fingers, its contents spilling into the room like the final act of a tragedy. The next morning, the house is alive with frantic whispers. A maid, her face pale as paper, stumbles across the threshold of the study. Her scream pierces the air, waking everyone from their slumber. Sir Claude's lifeless body lies slumped across his desk, his face contorted in an expression of terror, eyes wide open, staring at the formula that is no longer there. Poisoned, murdered. And the formula, the very key to the nation's safety, has vanished without a trace. The guests are immediately summoned to the study, but their faces are inscrutable. The atmosphere is suffocating, charged with a strange mixture of fear and confusion. Who could have done this? Who among them could have betrayed Sir Claude? And why? The tension hangs thick in the air, with only one certainty. The formula is gone, and with it, the one man who could have prevented disaster. As the investigation begins, no one is above suspicion. But with every answer, another question arises, each more disturbing than the last. The house that once seemed so safe now feels like a prison. And the walls, which once held secrets of power and discovery, now hold the terrible truth of murder. The clock ticks on, each second heavier than the last. Cliffhanger ending. As the investigation deepens, one question gnaws at the edges of Poirot's mind. Could the killer be hiding in plain sight? The study holds no answers, and the suspects have grown nervous, their secrets threatening to spill over. Poirot's eyes dart across the room, and just as he is about to speak, a sudden noise echoes from behind the walls of the study. A hidden passage. The sound of footsteps, quiet but deliberate. Someone is watching. Someone is waiting. And Poirot, with his sharp instincts, knows that the most dangerous game is yet to come. The door to the study creaks as a figure steps inside, but is it too late? Or has the formula been hidden even deeper than anyone suspected? The answer lingers, just out of reach, and the scene fades to black. The investigation begins. The mansion is now a hive of anxiety. The morning light, which had once spilled through the grand windows in warmth, now feels cold and oppressive. The distant hum of whispers fills the air as Poirot, along with his loyal assistant Captain Hastings, steps onto the scene. Hercule Poirot enters the study with a calm and almost unnerving serenity, his sharp, calculating eyes scanning every detail of the room. His small, neatly trimmed mustache twitches slightly, and his gaze shifts from Sir Claude's lifeless body to the disarray around the desk. Every object in the room seems out of place, but it's the people that intrigue him most. There are no obvious signs of struggle. The only clue is the empty coffee cup, sitting innocently beside the body, its dark contents mocking Sir Claude's last moments of life. Poirot's gaze hardens, but his demeanor remains measured. He turns to Captain Hastings, his ever-present companion, who stands by with an air of solemn curiosity. Poirot's mind is already at work, calculating, analyzing, working through the strands of suspicion. This case, Poirot mutters to himself, his voice low yet heavy with intent, is not just about a murder. It is about something far darker. As he begins to speak, his voice is calm but commanding, drawing the attention of the household. Every guest is present in the room, some pale with fear, others fidgeting, their nervousness palpable. Poirot's eyes flicker to each of them with methodical precision, taking in every subtle shift of emotion. His intuition sharpens. He knows without a single word being spoken that one of them holds the key to the truth. His first move is simple, yet brilliant. He calls for them to speak one by one, to recount their actions during the fateful night. The first to speak is Heine, Sir Claude's wife. Her eyes are hollow, drained of emotion, yet they flicker nervously under Poirot's unblinking stare. Her voice cracks as she recounts the night, detailing her late-night wanderings through the mansion, but Poirot can hear the unease in her words. Something is off, a hint of fear behind her poised exterior. The way she shifts her hands, the tremor that briefly touches her lips, Poirot is watching every movement. He knows instinctively that beneath this fragile facade is a woman desperate to hide her true feelings. His eyes narrow. Next is Imran, Sir Claude's old friend. His demeanor is calm, almost too calm. But Poirot's eyes are drawn to the slight twitch in Imran's left eye, the way his fingers unconsciously drum the surface of his chair. Poirot's instincts tell him that this man is hiding a deeper connection to Sir Claude than he's letting on. Poirot's mind flashes to the unspoken histories between them, the long years of friendship that may have been twisted by resentment, jealousy, or something far worse. What was it that Sir Claude knew about Imran? Poirot presses, his voice gentle but unyielding, as he tries to unravel the tension hidden beneath his words. Then there's Samar, the lawyer, whose composed facade cracks only when he speaks of his financial troubles. His past, littered with shady dealings, seems to catch up with him in Poirot's probing gaze. His words are careful, measured, as if he knows exactly what to say, what to leave out. But Poirot's mind is already ahead, calculating the tangled web of deceit and personal grievances that could make Samar the perfect suspect. Was it desperation, or a calculated move? Poirot watches him with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. He's playing a game of chess, and Poirot is several moves ahead. Poirot listens intently, the wheels of his mind turning, as he observes the guest's emotions. Every word, every gesture, every hesitation is recorded by his sharp perception. Yet, despite all his observations, Poirot's focus never wavers. For beneath all these secrets, the heart of the mystery remains, the formula, the key to national security. Who would kill for it, and why? Who would kill for it, and why? As Poirot carefully listens to each confession, something begins to form, a pattern that only he can see. The deeper he goes, the more he senses the ghosts of personal betrayals, whispered resentments, and hidden passions. Each of these guests holds a piece of the puzzle, but none is telling the whole truth. They are all hiding something, and Poirot knows it. What he does not know is the reason for the lies, the motive behind their carefully curated facades. Poirot's investigation, however, is not just about solving a crime. There is an emotional weight to this case, something that has begun to gnaw at him. He begins to see echoes of his own past in the eyes of the suspects. Their hidden regrets, their unspoken emotions, resonate with him. In particular, Hina's frail state reminds him of a woman he once knew, someone dear to him whose fate he never truly understood. It is a connection that haunts him, urging him to solve the case, but also to confront the long-buried emotions of his own life. The weight of his responsibility as a detective is not lost on Poirot. He realizes that each suspect represents not just a potential killer, but a complex human being, struggling with emotions far beyond the confines of this mansion. He knows this investigation will change the course of their lives, but what about his own? Cliffhanger ending. Just as Poirot finishes his observations and prepares to confront the suspects with his insights, a sudden, sharp noise interrupts the silence. It's a soft scraping sound from behind the walls, faint but unmistakable. Poirot's eyes narrow. "Did you hear that?" he asks, his voice steady, betraying no surprise. Captain Hastings looks around nervously, his hand instinctively reaching for his pistol. But Poirot holds up a hand, signaling for quiet. Another scraping noise, followed by a faint whisper too faint to make out, but enough to make the air in the room grow thicker. Poirot's eyes dart toward the bookcase in the corner, where a peculiar shadow now falls. A book on the shelf seems slightly out of place, its spine uneven with the others. Poirot's heart races, and his mind shifts gears, sensing that this is no ordinary house. This is a house of secrets, a house that hides far more than it reveals. The suspects stand frozen, their faces drained of color. Is there a hidden passage in the mansion? What are they trying to keep from Poirot? Poirot's gaze lingers on the bookcase, his mind already racing ahead. The answer lies behind that shelf. But will he be able to uncover it before another tragedy strikes? The sound of footsteps slow, deliberate echoes through the hall. The investigation has only just begun, but Poirot feels the weight of the house closing in on him. The secrets are starting to surface, and soon there will be no hiding from them. The suspects. The investigation deepens, and Hercule Poirot's methodical mind begins to piece together the fragments of the case. The mansion feels heavier now, like it's closing in on everyone within its walls. As Poirot continues to observe the guests, each one becomes an enigma wrapped in contradictions, their secrets lurking beneath the surface like shadows that refuse to be chased away by the light of truth. Character dynamics and secrets. Hina, the wife. Hina, Sir Claude's wife, seems like a woman suffocated by the weight of her own life. To an outsider, she appears fragile, composed, even delicate, but Poirot's sharp eyes catch the fleeting glimmers of something darker, a restrained anger that simmers just beneath her porcelain surface. She is constantly on edge, nervously clutching at the hem of her dress, her hand shaking whenever she thinks no one is watching. Her emotions are bottled up so tightly that one wrong move could shatter her completely. Sir Claude's intellectual brilliance had always overshadowed her, and she's lived in the shadow of his achievements, never able to escape the oppressive grip of his genius. But Poirot senses that her calm demeanor is a mask, one hiding a well of deep resentment. The tension between them was palpable, a quiet storm ready to explode. Poirot recalls her hushed arguments with Sir Claude in the days leading up to the murder. Were these fights about the formula, or was there something more personal at play? What did she know about her husband's discovery? And more importantly, did she play a part in his downfall? Imran, the old friend. Then there's Imran, Sir Claude's old friend. He carries the air of someone who has lived through much, someone whose past is not as simple as it seems. He exudes an unnatural calm, too calm for someone in the midst of a murder investigation. Imran avoids eye contact, his gaze darting around the room like a man who is constantly watching his back. Poirot can see through the act. There's a depth to Imran's nervousness, something Poirot doesn't yet understand, but can feel. Their friendship, Poirot discovers, was not as simple as it seemed. Sir Claude had always been the intellectual giant, the one everyone admired, while Imran had been relegated to the background, always playing second fiddle. But there were whispers of a rivalry between them, a rivalry rooted in the belief that Sir Claude had stolen something that was rightfully Imran's. Could that something have been the formula? Or perhaps it was something far more personal, something that goes beyond mere ambition. Samar, the lawyer. Samar, the lawyer, stands out as another intriguing figure. A descendant of the mansion's original owners, he holds a sense of entitlement to the estate. His financial troubles are well known, and Poirot can see the way Samar's eyes flicker with nervousness whenever the conversation turns to money. There's a history here, a deep undercurrent of resentment. Poirot learns that Samar had been fighting with Sir Claude over control of the mansion for years. Sir Claude's discovery of the formula had put Samar in a difficult position, threatening his last hopes of financial stability. Was Samar willing to do anything to gain control, even murder? Poirot doesn't dismiss the possibility. But there's a deeper connection to the mansion's history, something Samar isn't telling. Could he have known about the formula all along? The twist. Poirot, ever so meticulous, begins to uncover the hidden threads that bind the suspects. Each one holds a personal stake in Sir Claude's discovery. Each one is driven by their own desires and fears. As Poirot examines their relationships, a chilling realization begins to form. They are not simply connected by the murder, but by a web of deceit, betrayal, and long-buried emotions that go far beyond the formula. It is while inspecting Hina's personal belongings that Poirot makes a discovery that shakes him to the core. Hidden in a drawer, under a pile of delicate lace, he finds a small leather-bound diary, Hina's most private thoughts. Opening it cautiously, Poirot's eyes scan the entries, each word written in a hurried, almost frantic hand. The diary is filled with expressions of love and longing. But there's one entry that catches Poirot's attention. It is dated just weeks before Sir Claude's death. The words are sharp, bitter, and laden with guilt. I betrayed him. I trusted him. But he was never mine. He never saw me as his equal. I thought he loved me, but I was nothing more than his trophy. The formula was our future, but now it will be my ruin. Poirot feels the weight of those words. Betrayal, anger, guilt. These emotions reverberate in the quiet space between him and Hina's confession. It becomes clear. Hina's involvement in the murder was more than just a passive bystander. She had a hand in it, in some way. Her resentment towards Sir Claude had grown over the years, and the formula, the very thing that had become the center of their relationship, had now become the catalyst for something far darker. Could Hina have orchestrated the murder out of jealousy and frustration? Or was she an accomplice in a plan set in motion by someone else? Poirot cannot yet say, but the connections are undeniable. Cliffhanger ending. As Poirot reflects on this new revelation, the atmosphere in the mansion grows heavier. There's an underlying tension in the air, as if something is about to break. Poirot is interrupted by the sudden sound of a loud crash from upstairs. His head snaps in the direction of the noise, his instincts immediately on alert. Captain Hastings reacts first, rushing toward the stairs with Poirot hot on his heels. They reach the second floor in time to see Imran, his face pale and wild-eyed, standing over a broken vase in the hallway. His hands tremble as he tries to explain, but his words are incoherent. Poirot steps forward, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "What happened here?" Poirot demands, his voice steady, but with a note of command that makes Imran falter. Imran looks at Poirot, his face filled with a mix of panic and something else. Poirot recognizes all too well. It's fear, but it's not just fear of the investigation. It's the fear of something darker, something much more personal. Before Poirot can question him further, the air is pierced by another sound, a faint, hollow knocking, coming from behind the wall. Poirot freezes, his pulse quickening. Could this be the clue that unravels everything? Hastings moves to investigate, but Poirot's eyes are already darting back to the suspects gathered below. One of them knows something, and they are desperate to keep it hidden. The mansion is closing in around them, and with every twist, the truth becomes more elusive. Will Poirot uncover the full extent of the betrayal before another life is lost? As the knocking grows louder, Poirot knows one thing for sure. Nothing in this house is what it seems. The midpoint. The investigation has spiraled deeper into the heart of the mansion, each turn revealing more unsettling truths. Hercule Poirot's sharp mind and unyielding calm have served him well, but the more he uncovers, the heavier the weight of the mansion's secrets becomes. The walls seem to close in, suffocating the air with suspicion. Every room feels like a stage for lies, and each suspect seems to hold their own hidden darkness, a darkness that Poirot is determined to uncover. A shocking discovery. It's late in the afternoon when Poirot, feeling the oppressive weight of his thoughts, retreats to the private study of Sir Claude Amory. The room where Sir Claude spent most of his hours poring over his brilliant formula now holds only a lingering sense of loss and foreboding. As Poirot carefully examines the room for any overlooked clue, his hand brushes against a hidden drawer in Sir Claude's desk. His brow furrows, the soft click of the mechanism barely audible as the drawer slides open, revealing a weathered leather-bound journal. The journal, thick with age, falls open to a page marked with an elegant, though cryptic, passage. Poirot's sharp eyes scan the text, a sense of dread creeping over him as he reads aloud to himself. I have discovered a room that should not exist. It is hidden, obscured from view. In it, I shall perform the experiments that could change the world. But those around me, I fear they do not understand. I have made enemies, and I cannot trust them with what I know. This room must remain a secret for my safety and for the safety of all. The formula. The truth will be mine alone to hold. Poirot's mind races as he processes the words, a hidden room. Sir Claude had spoken of his intellectual pursuits in private, but nothing had prepared Poirot for the revelation that the man had concealed such an important part of his work within his own mansion. What was Sir Claude working on in secret? Was the formula merely the tip of the iceberg, something far more dangerous than anyone had realized? And if this room contained something far more valuable than the formula, could someone have killed to prevent its discovery? Poirot's fingers tremble slightly as he turns the page, a sense of urgency rising within him. There are no directions, no detailed description of where this room might be located. It is as though Sir Claude wanted it to remain lost in time, perhaps hoping that his death would erase all traces of its existence. But Poirot cannot let go of the feeling that this hidden space holds the key to everything. Emotional tension. Poirot can feel the emotional tension rising, not just within the mansion, but within each of the people who inhabit it. As he speaks with the suspects, he senses the undercurrents of guilt, anger, and fear that each of them is desperately trying to suppress. Their emotions are raw, their motives clouded by jealousy, regret, and resentment. Hina, the wife, is visibly distressed as Poirot presses her about her knowledge of the hidden room. Her frailty becomes apparent, the cracks in her composure impossible to ignore. Her eyes flicker with something unspoken when Poirot mentions Sir Claude's secret. She almost seems to tremble, as if her very soul is tied to the truth of what lies behind the mansion's walls. Could she know where the room is? And if she did, why would she hide it? Imran, Sir Claude's old friend, remains aloof, but Poirot sees the flicker of fear in his eyes when the conversation turns to Sir Claude's intellectual pursuits. The years of friendship have been marred by tension, by a deep-seated rivalry that Poirot now knows was far from friendly. What had Imran done in the past to betray Sir Claude's trust? And what was the price of that betrayal? Samar, the lawyer, is still calculating, his mind running through the possible benefits of owning the mansion. But as Poirot presses him, there's something almost frantic in the way Samar deflects questions about Sir Claude's secret work. He's hiding something far more than just his financial troubles. Poirot wonders if Samar, too, had known about the hidden room and its contents, and if the lure of wealth and power was enough to turn him against Sir Claude. Poirot's thoughts are interrupted as he catches sight of something on the table, an envelope, partially open, its contents seemingly discarded in haste. He picks it up, his breath catching as he reads the hastily scrawled words. "Leave now, or you will regret it." The warning is unmistakable. Someone is trying to stop Poirot from uncovering the truth. Someone is willing to go to any lengths to prevent him from finding the hidden room and perhaps the answers that lie within it. Rising danger. Poirot's resolve strengthens. He realizes that the walls are closing in not just on Sir Claude's secrets, but on his own investigation. The murderer is not just hiding their guilt. They are actively trying to sabotage Poirot's progress, to push him out before the truth is revealed. The stakes are higher now. Poirot's calm, calculating demeanor gives way to an undercurrent of urgency. The more he digs, the more dangerous the situation becomes. He knows that if he is not careful, he may become the next victim. That evening, as Poirot and Captain Hastings retire for the night, the air in the mansion grows colder. Poirot senses an unfamiliar stillness, as if the very building is holding its breath. Suddenly, the lights flicker, and a sharp, loud knock echoes through the corridor. Poirot stiffens, the hairs on the back of his neck rising. Hastings, ever the practical one, opens the door. But when he returns, his face has gone pale. "There's a message," Hastings says, voice trembling. Poirot takes the note from his assistant, his heart sinking as he reads it aloud. "Stop now, or you will never leave this house." Poirot's mind races. Who would be bold enough to send such a message? And why? It's clear that someone wants him gone, wants the investigation to end before the truth is exposed. But why such desperation? What are they trying to hide? Cliffhanger ending. As Poirot stands by the window, pondering the dangers that have now enveloped him, the mansion seems to come alive around him, its creaks and groans, as if reacting to the tension that has thickened the air. Suddenly, from across the room, he hears a sound. A faint, almost imperceptible creaking, like the whisper of a door opening in the dead of night. Poirot's eyes narrow. He steps cautiously toward the source of the noise. Every fiber of his being screams that something is about to happen, something that will change everything. The door to Sir Claude's private study slowly swings open. The dim light from the hallway spills into the room, casting long shadows across the floor. Poirot steps forward, heart pounding, only to stop dead in his tracks as he sees a figure standing in the doorway, a figure he never expected. And just like that, the world around him seems to collapse. Who is standing in the doorway? The suspense builds, the mystery deepens, and Poirot is left with only one question. Can he trust anyone in this house? The revelation that waits on the other side of the door could be the key to everything, or it could be the final deadly trap.